getting a victory in WWE can be really difficult for some wrestlers, which is why there are superstars who have done everything possible to achieve that much desired win. And when I say everything, I mean it. From negotiating with women for a win, to pulling off major tricks, even buying the WWE title. Well, all that and more in the next video. I'll stop talking, and today I'll show you 14 matches won in a smart way in WWE. In WWE, there have been a lot of twin brothers who have helped distract opponents and have gotten just as involved in matches as their siblings. And it turns out that having a twin brother is a huge advantage in most cases, especially in WWE. Look at how Kurt Angle and his twin brother Eric used to switch places, or maybe you need to see the talented Basham brothers and remember how they always came out with their own. And finally, the Bella twins also did their thing with this switch tactic. Subscribe. Last man standing matches have the sole purpose of making your opponent so beaten up that they can't get back on their feet. However, there are wrestlers who have gotten creative and, instead of just beating their opponent unconscious, they find any way possible to keep them from getting back on their feet. A pretty smart way to win this kind of match. Nowadays, times have changed, and there are a lot of ways to win a last man standing match. But this kind of cleverness hasn't only worked in last man standing matches. Let's remember the time when Edge taped Christian's feet with adhesive tape inside the steel cage at the Rebellion event in 2001. Or maybe it's good to remember this other time where apparently Edge didn't need to use adhesive tape. Well, in WWE, cunning will always be allowed. Well thought out cheating will always be allowed in WWE because there was nothing illegal beyond the lie. There are WWE superstars who have faked an injury to take advantage and get the win in the match. Let's take an example from the year 2002. It was Victoria's debut on Monday Night Raw, and she was facing Trish Stratus. Everything was going well until Victoria apparently landed on the ground with the wrong foot. Referees came in to help her out of the ring, and a very compassionate Trish sat on the ropes to help Victoria exit. However, at that very moment, we realized that it was all a lie. Victoria would finally achieve her goal and remain as the winner of the match. Something very similar to what Alexa Bliss did in 2016 on SmackDown against Becky Lynch, or what Shawn Michaels did against Batista. Anyway, there are plenty of examples. Roman Reigns has always had innovative ways to break out of a pin, but maybe one of the most striking ways happened at the event. Pale, for watching Clash of Champions 2020, where he defended his Universal title against Jey Uso when Jey covered him. Roman Reigns had no choice but to break the count in a very particular way. And it turns out that this way was perfect to break the count, and at the same time to be able to punish his opponent with a low blow. This move by Reigns allowed him to retain his title that night, but this bad habit, Roman Reigns would use it again later and on several occasions. One of the most memorable was against Finn Balor on SmackDown in September 2021. In fact, every time he uses this move, Roman ends up winning easily. Although his cousin, Jey Uso, memorized this low blow well and used it again 3 years after it was used on him. And he did it at the Money in the Bank 2023 event. This time, the result wasn't favorable, parable. For the tribal chief, the bell is the necessary sound to start and end a match. However, there have been times when the bell has served as a distraction to benefit a superstar who has a match on the line. Because the bell can make a wrestler stop in their tracks and completely forget about the course of the match. While the bell rings at the start of the match, the sound of the bell that confuses superstars the most is the sound at the end, because they think the match is already over. Well, here's a clear example of what I'm talking about. Attack. Someone tries to conceal their identity in the ring. It's a disadvantage for the other wrestler because he doesn't know who he's facing and even less what moves the other person might use against him. That's why there have been multiple superstars who have used a full body disguise to hide their identity and come out victorious. However, there's a rather peculiar event that happened at SummerSlam in 2005 when an old madman jumped the barricade to help Randy Orton. Later, we would realize that it was Bob Orton, Randy's father, who had jumped the barricade with a different outfit and with wrinkle makeup on his skin along with a mustache. There are different ways to win, and whoever has money can do absolutely whatever they please. Ted DiBiase was called the $1 Million Man, and during his career in WWE, he bought multiple victories with money, even going so far as to buy not only victories, but also titles. Something very surprising, but it's part of WWE history, because those bought titles made Ted DiBiase a champion on multiple occasions, something very similar to what Ted DiBiase did. That's what the Godfather did, who, although he didn't pay for victories with money, he did offer his opponents a night with any of his workers. Many superstars accepted this offer and left with 1 or even 3 of his workers. Meanwhile, the Godfather stayed in the ring and ended up winning the match. This would be unthinkable to do today. However, the Godfather gave us truly unforgettable moments. This could also be seen as blackmail, but in a different way. And as I repeat again, no one was forced to choose. Wrestlers who wear masks have the incredible advantage that absolutely no one in the audience can know their face. However, they have the big disadvantage that their rivals can take away the most precious secret they wear. This was the case with Alberto Del Rio and Chris Jericho, who left Rey Mysterio between a rock and a hard place. And with absolutely no chance of winning these matches, since Rey Mysterio both times had to decide whether to protect the secret of his face or continue with the match. There are extreme matches where certain wrestlers have needed to leave their opponent with no way out in order to win. In fact, they've left them completely trapped with no chance to move or escape the count. Actually, it's pretty smart, although not only in extreme matches. This way of trapping a wrestler after the count has been used, but also on the ring as well. When a wrestler is very strong or of an incredible size, several superstars have to join forces to pin him or eliminate him from a match. They say that unity is strength, and it seems that's quite true. There are moments and matches for every taste, just as there are matches where those facing each other are great friends, allies, or even members of the same faction. And obviously, they don't want to beat their boss. Others have even let themselves lose, even out of fear of retaliation. There have been a lot of superstars who have let themselves lose in the easiest way, throwing themselves to the ground and even letting their opponent put a foot on them to defeat them. When someone talks about extreme level cheating in WWE, the name Eddie Guerrero automatically comes to mind, and it's as if Eddie Guerrero had taken over that move. Lying, stealing, and cheating was his motto, but Eddie didn't just show that winning by cheating was possible, he even made his opponent look really bad. Eddie didn't care how he got the victory. As long as he won, he was happy. Eddie Guerrero is and will always be a legend, and only he could pull off this kind of cheating. One thing is certain, we, the fans, will never forget him. The hardcore and 24/7 title matches gave us truly exceptional moments and some really memorable pinfalls, since we saw some people become champions just by putting a finger on their opponent and without any noise. Or if not, check this out. Well, even R-Truth himself can say that he was champion at great heights. Samoa Joe has always been known for his cunning and for seeking victory in the match. One way or another, Samoa Joe has made it clear that his incredible submission move can be used much better than just in the ring. And the thing is, many superstars have used their submission moves outside the ring, but they haven't been able to get any personal benefit from it, since submitting doesn't count outside the ring. However, Samoa Joe's submission hold is somewhat special, since Samoa uses his classic sleeper hold outside the ring, and he leaves his opponents lying unconscious. And when the 10 count is about to end, Samoa Joe gets back in and ends up winning his match, making this a truly surprising way to secure victory.